Three, two. Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Show. My name's Evan Scrimshaw. On today's podcast, I'm basically doing what I want with this show, which is I'm having an F1 season preview. And to do that, I'm having I guess you can say, friend of the show. I don't really know. Internet personality, TikToker, Twitter user, Charlotte Leclerc stan, Sebastian Vettel stan, really in reality, Formula whatever. Thanks for coming on.
Hello. Yes, general arguer on the internet.
Uh yeah, I've been a big fan of your TikTok since I started to give a shit about F1. You can be found. Is your Twitter handle straight up just at Formula whatever
Yeah,
on
it's all just at Formula whatever except for Instagram which has an underscore, which is annoying, but whatever.
um how we feeling? We're recording this after day one of testing, before day two of testing. How are we feeling about the 2024 F1 season?
I mean, Max is a second ahead, so like it just is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I'm not one of the people like I obviously enjoy a title fight, but unless I don't know, like it doesn't bother me that much. Like I understand that like most F1 seasons, like someone is gonna, if not run away with it, like there's gonna be a clear champion. But a second ahead is a bit much.
I also like, are we really pretending testing times mean something?
I mean, no, but also like I view testing times the same way I view rumors on the internet, which is that I don't believe any of them, but I believe all of them collectively. Like if there's like, yes, they mean nothing, but also a second is a lot, especially around Bahrain.
Yeah, but like Mercedes have basically said we didn't even like we just basically just sent George on a day's worth of long runs.
That's
Um
true.
like I'm not gonna pretend I was paying close attention to Ferrari's game plan, but I mean I guess the real question is can we so I think Lando is second, which
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
going to
hopefully I want like as much as obviously like I'm a accused Lando hater, but I want McLaren to be good at least, if not like fighting at the front.
do
But
we
I just
seriously?
want like I want the midfield. Like I think when interesting teams are competitive, it's better. You know what I mean? I feel
Sure,
like
I agree. I guess I just reject the premise that McLaren is an interesting team.
I mean I like Oscar
Sure.
despite his affiliation with Mark Webber, but
You just live for 2012 drama.
yes. I listen, Sebastian Vettel can be friends with Mark Webber all he wants. Sebastian Vettel is a millionaire frolicking in the Swiss wilderness. He has me to hate for him. I think and oh, like Mark Webber also, I would give up the Mark Webber beef if Mark Webber would give it up. Like he always is on some podcast being like, "Oh, Red Bull hated me. I didn't get one wing upgrade, and that's the reason that I finished fifth in 2012, a year later with a completely different wing."
Wasn't it 2 years later? Wasn't he bitching about the 2010?
Oh yeah, you're right. It was 2 years.
I don't even I haven't even watched 2010. I just know it from you bitching about the 2012, from you bitching about Mark Webber bitching about the 2012 league upgrade. Um
It's because I constantly rewatch those seasons. So like every time I watch it, I like I'm on
I
Twitter
I
being like, freaking Mark Webber.
I can't do 2010 and 2011 because it's not crofty.
It is weird, I will say, but you have to do it for 2010. 2010 is literally the best season of Formula One ever. Like I will die on
20
that hill.
no 2012 though, because A crofty, but B fucking Pasta Maldonado what a race.
I mean, 2012 is amazing. Like 20 Brazil 2012 is my favorite race. Nico Rosberg won his first race in 2012. Like it's a beautiful season. Obviously, Seb is amazing. And but the thing is, like 2012, I don't know. I just feel like 2012, like 2010 was so much closer. And the fact that Seb like comes from nowhere to win in Abu Dhabi, oh, it was just such a twist ending.
I mean, if you love a twist ending, then 2021 should be your favorite season of all time.
2021 is my least favorite season of all time. And like, I literally, it's because
How? It's incredible.
there were so many amazing races, I will say, and so many races that were amazing for things like completely outside the title fight too. I think it was just altogether a really competitive season. But
So
for
so
me,
as we're recording this, I am currently watching Silverstone Quali from 2021
to me,
because I just wanted something on in the background.
Abu Dhabi ruins it. And like, it's truly no shade to Max because the reason I literally never talked about this. Like, I never made a TikTok. I never even talked about because it was so like people are so insane about this topic. And like, like Connie got for her birthday, she got like a framed picture of Max like winning his first world championship. And she was like, oh my God,
Oh, I
like, is
remember this. Yeah, I've seen it.
it?
The internet lost their minds. It's like
We're
Max
like,
Verstappen fan happy Max Verstappen won. What are
yeah,
we
and
doing here?
people were so evil toward her. So like, and but also like people on the other side are like the Max people are just fucking batshit crazy. Like the those that season was and like the discourse of that season is just like so not fun to me because like like the people who get so mad about Monza and are like Max actively tried to kill him and like there are people on both sides who say the same thing about the reverse and like everyone complains that he didn't like go check on Lewis or like first of all there's also very clearly a camera shot where he walks across stops looks at Lewis sees that Lewis's tires are literally moving like he was
Yeah.
actively trying to reverse which is incredibly dangerous when you have a car on top of you and I don't blame Lewis like any of them would have done that but Max chooses to walk in Lewis's path which is also like not fantastic but I also understand like he probably just was walking where he like to the closest barrier, you know what I mean? But he like he like people are like, oh, why didn't he check on him? Like Lewis was actively driving the car. Like
Yeah.
Max shouldn't have walked up to him. And but Abu
My
Dhabi, like
only my main Abu Dhabi take, and I need to get your opinion on this, is Max fans who try to pretend that Abu Dhabi like quote unquote like went right. You're a Patriots fan. There's a thing called the Tuck rule. I think we can agree
the
that
rule
the
is the
Tuck
rule.
rule was a complete fiction that helped you.
Okay, but the tuck rule was a rule written in the rule book. Unlike
Technically, so was Michael Massey being able to do whatever the fuck he wanted. That's
right.
also
My
written in the rule book.
problem is with the Formula One rules and how there aren't any. Like
Yeah,
every
but Max fans like I just don't understand why Max fans are like, yeah, he did us a solid. We
here's the
won.
thing, like what
Great.
happened in Abu
Cool.
Dhabi.
Don't defend the shit show.
Abu Dhabi was so fucked up because like they actively like were like actually no like and if you really wanted your last lap, but you wanted it to like
Just
if
straight
you
flag it.
cared, you should have they should have just red flagged it and been like, we don't want to end the season under safety car. So we're just going to red flag it. Then everybody can change their tires and it's fair. You know what I mean? The
Well, and they'd
fact
also done that season in was it Baku? Yeah, when Lewis went on at the
yeah,
restart. Yeah.
the fact
Also, Lewis, buddy, you want to talk about why you lost that championship? Don't look up. Don't
and
look up in Baku.
it's well, let me finish my Abu Dhabi take. But like they literally like the fact that they just hastily screwed over Lewis because they were like, well, we'll just quick one lap. Oh my God. And we get to say it came down to the last lap. But was it fair? No. But do I like the idea that it was some grand conspiracy against Lewis is just the series of events that had to lead to that happening are just not something that you could really prearrange. You know what I mean? And I also feel like all season you could tell that the FIA and Michael Massey were making calls in favor of it coming down to the last race. And so like that race was never going to end under safety car. It just wasn't like, and the FIA's greed is just as much of a factor in Formula One as the weather or the plastic bag that gets sucked into the radiator or
Yeah.
the bird that someone hits. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
Saudi was a complete monstrosity, but giving Max that 5 second penalty just to like ensure that Lewis was gonna be allowed to win the race. Like, what are we doing? It
that's
was
what I'm
it
saying.
was
Like, you
it
can't
was for
act like
sure an attempt to end it under safety car. Or and not under safety car, end it at Abu Dhabi.
right. Like they screwed Lewis over because of greed. And
Yeah.
that is like it does upset me. And I literally cried after that race. So, but like you like that's not Max's fault. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he
and
did.
Max fans can should just be able to accept the fact that yeah, you got the bounce, like
And
deal with
also
it.
like Formula One, like you can play the ifs and buts game because like people love to do that with Nico. They're like, Lewis had 3 engine failures. And I'm like, okay, first of all, Nico also had 2 engine failures that year. So it's not like it was 3-0. You know what I mean? He had one more. And also the winds of fate are part of it.
I mean, how differently could 2007 and 2008 both have gone?
Right? Like, what if Fernando Alonso never blocked Lewis in the pit lane? Like, what if Felipe Massa, Ferrari didn't leave his fuel hose attached to him and then release him and then pretend that there's no idea we're all trying to find the guy who did this. You know what I mean? But so
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like, you
un
know,
unfortunately, because I'm also upset with that, but like the Lewis fans hate me for that. And then the Max, but like also the Max fans don't really like me either. So I'm just
why I don't know. I feel like you don't care about Max that much.
No. I mean, it's not that yeah, I don't. I don't dislike him. But also people, well, because like I just said about the Monza thing, like after Silverstone, like I'm sorry. And I genuinely was like, I really hope Max is okay. And like, if you watch my rewatch from that race, like I was very concerned when he crashed. It was really scary. But he would like Lewis Hamilton grabbing like yeeting Max into the wall, winning the race, and then grabbing a British flag and running into the infield like he is like just won a WWE World Championship.
At the first sporting
Fucking
event in Britain to have crowds post COVID.
it's fucking hilarious. And like Lewis is like and this is why this is like the perfect example of like both of them don't like Lewis is such a shady little bitch sometimes and but not even that. I think he's just dramatic. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love that. Like that's why I love Lewis. Like his old like in his feelings tweets like it's so funny and it's so honestly iconic and relatable. Him with the flag too and like running it just but
The man
people
has a flair for the dramatic. So you
and also
are
it's like, I think it was a bad accident, but also like Lewis doesn't it's not any different than if they just like bumped wheels and nothing happens. You know what I mean? They never know what's going to happen when they touch.
yeah, of course. Like it's I, at some point I kind of feel like people like if you don't like this is a high paced sport. Like if you don't have the constitution for it, don't don't watch.
And also at the end of the day, like you can call everyone a dirty driver until you're blue in the face, but all of the ones that are truly world champion caliber, like the Lewises and the Maxes of the world, like I rewatched 2011. I close my eyes and I feel like the commentary is talking about Max, but it's in 2018, but it's Lewis. Like they all, when they're competing for wins, when they're competing for a championship, they're going to make you crash into them rather than let you pass. If they're going to be so finely on that edge that it's like they're going to make you lock up. They're going to like they would rather crash than lose. Like and it's an uncomfortable truth, but like Michael Schumacher like come on, like they're all like that. Even when
So so
crazy is
I'm
that
gonna take this
when it was dangerous, like really really dangerous.
so I'm gonna take this as an opportunity to make an entirely self-serving point. George Russell crashing in Singapore is a much better sign for him being a world champion than Lando Norris just sitting in Carlos Sainz's DRS the entire time.
You know what? Fantastic spin zone. I totally agree with you.
I no, I it's not even spin. I firmly believe it because George at least was trying to win a race, and Lando was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna be content with second." So
No, like, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like they're all like crazy. Like
Do
you
we
have to.
do we think anyone can challenge Max?
I think my like crazy take is that I think if Charles was in the Red Bull, he is possibly the only one that could challenge Max because they both always talk about how they like the same kind of car. And that's where Max's true advantage lies, is how far he's Adrian Newey's favorite. Like that's why he'll always be the golden boy, because he's can let Adrian Newey push so far. And Charles is a really good qualifier. You have to be like, you're going to have to beat Max in qualifying if you want to beat him. And there's only one person who's been able to do that on a consistent basis. Not
So
that he
I
always
am
beat him. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean one person has beat Max in qualifying more than others.
yeah. So here's the thing. I'm expressing a potentially controversial opinion. I think Charles is going to give him a real run for his money this
I
year.
think he can. If I think if he's in a competitive car, and that's not me saying like, oh, would definitely go into Red Bull and beat Max. Like it's entirely
No, no.
possible that he doesn't. But I think in terms of who I think would be competitive, like I also, yeah, they race well together.
I think the Ferrari is going to be sort of close enough to win a bunch of races. I don't think it's going to be close enough to win. But the other thing is, like, Red Bull's not going to develop this car. Red Bull's just gonna start punting everything to 26. Like they're not gonna develop this very far. You know, even if they come out dominant, I don't think that lead's gonna last. Ferrari has finally come to a correct understanding of what the car is supposed to be. I think Ferrari's going to be decent. I'm very worried about Mercedes
Same.
because I don't know. I don't know if Mercedes, like, sometimes it's just like you just don't have the right. You just don't understand the regs change. Like, kind of worried that's what it's going to be. I still think though there are a few
Jim
tracks
is.
where Mercedes should be able to compete, right? You know, Hungary, maybe Austria, China probably should be pretty good for Mercedes, right?
I cannot wait to like. I'm so excited they're going back to China. Shanghai is such a good track.
I it is my like worst opinion that I'm like super excited for China because like yeah, like the country of China,
Listen,
but like the
I hate to stay on the CCP, but also like let's not pretend we're gonna get picky about where we're hosting these races. That is,
that is literally my argument.
and
So
also
let me
you
be
need to,
excited about the one authoritarian dictatorship that has a good racetrack.
it's listen, like, and then you get into this spiral of like, okay, well, we're hosting a race in Texas, and like it's like, okay, like you get into this situation where you're like, yes, like everywhere is bad, but there's also like they're just like at a certain point, like it, like I feel like freedom of speech is the difference. Like
Yep.
we can boo Greg Abbott, you know what I mean?
Yes, we
But
can.
I just think that the right to boo is such a beautiful thing in this world. But like our Americans' propensities to boo people is just truly one of the best things about us. But I feel like and that's what's crazy to me about why it's so controversial in F1, because I feel like in soccer, they like go too far. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
like
but
throwing.
that's the whole thing is that the F1 fans think they're better than soccer fans, and so when F1 fans boo, they're like, "Oh, we're no better than the football hooligans that we think we're above."
Yeah, I mean, I've never like fought anyone. You know what I mean? They do that in the NFL too, though, to be fair.
Yeah. How? I mean, do you actually think McLaren's going to be like really competitive? Because honestly, them being a second behind Max is honestly makes me feel worse about McLaren than George being like, I don't know, 2.5 seconds, whatever the hell he was off the pace. Because being 1 second off the pace means that you tried to be on the pace and weren't on the pace.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like you have to see like the amalgamated times at the end of it. But
All I know is that the Mercedes accounts that last year were like not like the official ones, but like the fan accounts were like already like vaguely homicidal by the end of day one. Um, they seem to be reasonably optimistic about Mercedes's situation. So
really how I judge is I watch the little broadcast and I listen to what everybody all the professionals say, and then I go on the internet and I read everything, and I just try to see if there's a consensus opinion because I,
Well, last year we knew the Aston was good. Like, Ted and Brundle
yeah,
and everyone were like, "Oh, the Aston looks pretty good." Like, we don't really have that. We don't have the like preseason. Holy shit, they made a move team this year.
that's true.
I mean, the artists formerly known as Toro Rosso kind of are filling that spot, but that's not really any like actual actionable intelligence that
No, and
suggests
they've
they're good.
also been like markedly bad recently.
Yeah, but like people just think it because they now have like the Red Bull suspension, like, but like we don't have any like we aren't getting like leaked from the simulator or whatever that says they're going to be fast. So we have 6 questions. We're going to do the Scrimshaw 6.
Nice.
We kind of already answered question 1, but I have a last name that works well for headline puns. So we're Scrimshaw and gimmicks. Scrimshaw 6. 1, can anyone stop Max? We kind of already done this. Question numero dos. How are we feeling about Charles and George? Because obviously George is dealing with the last season of Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Charles is about to get Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. They are both, I think, the sort of princes that were promised. Charles is basically the last good Ferrari driver academy product since.
Isn't there that other one?
I mean, Mick Schumacher was on the grid for a couple years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Charles is the Ferrari's fated prince, but
Yeah, and then George obviously is the Mercedes prince. Like, how do we think basically, and then Lewis is kind of correlated in on both of their ends. Do we think Lewis is going to be that good still?
yes. One thing about me is it's hard. Lewis is, I don't think has lost any step whatsoever. I think that he was trying to develop the car. Like, I fully buy into and believe that. But like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know enough about like the what Lewis wants out of development of a car, like what his preferences are, like if he feels, and I don't think even he'll know that until he drives the car himself. So that will be interesting to me. I think the only reason I worry for Charles is, and I'm sorry to the Lickfosi if they get mad at me for saying this. I really hope it's truly coming from a place of anxiety. Like but I work and also to pretend that there's not a very real political situation happening behind the scenes at every team, but especially at Ferrari. I worry that Lewis is very good at both the behind the scenes political game and also like the media narrative of it all, which as much as people like to pretend doesn't matter in a sport like F1, where really there just aren't solid statistics. And where there are statistics, we are all constantly fighting with each other over what matters and what doesn't. And truly, analysis of talent is based on championships and vibes. So like and race wins and vibes. So and like who is the hot girl of the moment. And Lewis is very, very, very good at media. And so is Charles. And like they're both universally beloved. And I think it could be good I'm hoping, best case scenario, Lewis goes there, Bono comes as well, and they can pull a Michael Schumacher and be like, actually, like, this is what needs to happen. And then Lewis and Charles can battle it out on track. But I worry if Bono comes because I know Javi, we're supportive of him. Charles likes him. He's been doing a better job. But like compared to Bono, like there's just no chance.
But here's the 3 counterpoints to this. Sort of like Lewis will, iron sharpens iron. One, is Lewis that good at playing the political game? Because he very clearly wanted a contract into the next regulations change at Mercedes and couldn't win that game of poker with Toto Wolff. could never get the long sort of extended we'll have you for as long as you want contract that he very clearly has wanted, going back multiple contract extensions.
I mean, maybe you could say that about how like that yeah, like he like quote unquote like that Toto didn't want to give him that. But if you look big picture, I feel like he came into Mercedes that was very much like Nico's team and like made Toto because he's that good. You know what I mean? That the behind the scenes stuff follows unless you're like a total asshole, which he clearly isn't. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but no one's doubting that Lewis for the last 10 years has been, goat or at the very least co-goat level. But Toto didn't like was pretty implicitly given a put up or shut up.
But
And
I
Toto's
also
like, yeah,
think
we're not gonna do it.
true. I also think that the only time like that stuff comes into play with development. You know what I mean? So if there isn't like such a tension there as there was with Carlos and Charles, then maybe it won't be a problem. Like that
Yeah, but
remains.
I just like what is Lewis at this point? He lost to George 2 years ago. He tied the qualifying head to head with George last year, despite the fact that George was garbage for like the middle third of the season. You know,
I mean, okay, yeah, but like
what has he accomplished?
he
Like,
also, I just feel like that Mercedes car has been he's got yes he didn't hasn't won, but he has gotten several podiums in and like but I think George is good. I think he was young and he was hungry. And I also think that Lewis did lose a pretty significant amount of points trying throwing shit at the wall. You know what I mean? But and I also think it's always and it's nothing against George. It makes sense for Lewis to be the one more focused on that when he's driven the other championship winning cars in the past. I don't know. Like I will always have faith in Lewis's talent because he kind of went through this with McLaren too, where they kind of started to flop. And Jensen was also really good. You know what I mean? And he beat him in some head to heads. I have faith he can go to Ferrari and do well, but I also think that Charles is Ferrari's son and beloved by them and is also incredibly talented. I also think Lewis and Charles get along, yes. So I think it
yeah, but him
will
and
be
George
good.
got along too, and that didn't stop them from crashing on track. Like,
Of course, I don't think right. And I also don't think it's like it doesn't always have to be that deep when they crash. Like shit does happen. But I think where it really if Lewis and Charles end up competing for championships, it'll be a very interesting battle.
see, I just don't think Lewis has it to compete. Like, I think if you give, I think by 2025, 2026, like if Ferrari ace the 26 regulations, Charles is your world champion. I don't even think it's
That's
close.
crazy. Like, listen, as much as I don't know, like I truly don't know. I am not confident. Like I have hold such both of them in such high esteem. Obviously, I would be in my heart like pulling for Charles, and I think Charles is because the key, if you're gonna beat someone on the caliber of Lewis and Max, you have to outqualify them. And I think that Charles's skill as a qualifier, though people
Dude,
use it
George,
to like act like he doesn't know how to like drive in a race. I think that that is like it's not that he's not good at driving in the race. It's that he's like randomly like insane at qualifying.
yeah.
But so I think that that will help him.
And that's why I think Charles can get a bunch of race wins this year. Like, if you start on pole, like you're just gonna luck box your way into some wins at some point. Like,
But I think that Lewis will like Lewis is I don't I don't think just because he hasn't been in a competitive car for 2 years isn't like has like is suddenly not like the same Lewis Hamilton that's been consistently amazing for 15 years. And he has definitely had moments of brilliance in the last 2 years. I think it's just like
can you name one, please?
I shut up. I think it,
No, I'm not. I'm no.
and
I'm being genuinely friendly.
as much as I hate this for Lewis, like it, like, and
I
also
think
like,
Lewis made a massive mistake doing this.
oh,
I think he completely fucked himself by doing this.
I
Like he's
disagree.
gonna go make a ton of money. You are never gonna be. You're never gonna be the Defoe season one. You are never gonna be above Charles in either the fan pecking order. You're never gonna be it in terms of the internal hierarchy, and you're never gonna be able to meld a team to your whim because, as you've explained 1,000 times about Ferrari, Ferrari thinks they're bigger than every one of their
But
drivers
Michael
ever.
Schumacher did.
Schumacher did be Schumacher did because he did something that was like incredibly more impressive than anything Lewis Hamilton has ever done.
No, but like
Is
he did.
win
Well,
that
he
first
also had
championship in a
Ross.
fucking what was it, a fucking Benetton?
Yeah. Well, they maybe cheated. Just kidding. I would never say that about our Lord and Savior, Michael Schumacher. I'm so sorry, but but that is like the 1994 season is tea, I will say. And at the scene of the crime, as always, is Fabio Briatore. But they he also had Ross Brawn, so like that's a factor as well. Um, and they like, but Michael Schumacher came in and was like, I also think Lewis, it, I have long, and this is pure superstition, but I have long held that the key to winning at Ferrari is that you can't drink the Kool-Aid. Like you have to not think about it. What do Kimi and Michael Schumacher have in common? I just can't see either of those men buying into like the mystique and the the romantic notions of Ferrari in the way that a Seb or a Charles has.
Yeah, but Fred Vasseur is also like very clearly Team Charles, which is again why I'm optimistic for Charles this year is that like Vasseur.
But Sir also has a relationship with Lewis. So you don't like,
Sure,
I mean,
but
I also think that like in the short term, like everything we're talking about is like conditioned upon Ferrari having a world championship caliber car. I think in the short term, like in the build up, Lewis can bring nothing but value because I have faith that he'll steer the car in the right direction and not like purposely make it slower to suit himself. Because Lewis, above anything, wants to win.
yeah, for sure. He will be better than Carlos Sainz in that sense. And obviously Vasseur is better than your hated rival Mattia Binotto. Um
My number one enemy.
so rank let's have some fun. Let's get you on the record with a terrible prediction that will definitely not hold. Red Bull, I think we both think is going to be one of the constructors this year.
Yeah.
Although we will get back to Red Bull in a minute. Um rank rank 2 through 4.
Okay, I think Ferrari will be second.
Agreed.
I either think Mercedes is going to be second or like fourth. But I'll say Ferrari will be second, McLaren will be third, and Mercedes will be fourth.
So you're coming onto my podcast and spewing Lando Norris propaganda.
No, I obviously am rooting for Oscar.
Fine. I will tolerate it only because he's funny. Um
And also like in order, as much as I view Lando, actually no, because I have so much more affection like secretly in my heart for Fernando Alonso, but mostly because he like came around and like backed Lewis during 2020. But he like Lando, but I will say Lando has always been like super whatever. He's
yeah,
not.
but Lando also botches every big moment.
That's true. I will
Crashed
say
in Spa, ran off in Russia.
like they definitely, yeah. And for well, I don't want to bring it up because Lewis also crashed in that race, so it's not a good memory. But um, I think I in order like I think McLaren being good will be more interesting for myself personally because I really like Oscar and Lando is like an interesting character in the story of Formula One.
Whereas you just hate my favorite driver.
No, it's I am scared of George. It's truly a fear, not hatred. He people with that British accent, and I don't know if this is offensive, but like I do think that they're faking it. Like he sounds like he's an American doing a British accent.
Can we just take 30 seconds and establish the fact that George Russell is like way less of a Tory than Lando Norris is?
It's not even about the actual political affiliation. It's about the fact because let's be honest, I don't want to know any of their don't you just don't tell me your opinion because I know it's bad and like if you say it like that just more people are just going to agree with you. So
This
like
is this is me with Jordan Spieth because you're a
really?
rich boy from Dallas, might
Yeah.
which
Not
might
pointing it.
mean that you have just that you now support Joe Biden, but like might also mean that you still haven't quite gotten there yet. And I really, really can't find out that Spieth is secretly like I just can't. I can't.
Um,
He
but
doesn't donate anybody. That's the only thing I have going for me.
he like
Well, at least he'll never. At
not the
least
fact that
Charles will never express an opinion because he doesn't live in a democracy.
George the I feel like George Russell is a character on The Crown that has like stepped out of my television and like Enchanted. Have you ever seen that movie where he like
Oh yeah,
escapes
yeah, yeah.
into the real world? Like I just rich British people, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just like he is more like viscerally rich British, but like Lando is actually way more of a like actual rich person. Um
Oh,
uh
his dad is tremendously wealthy.
so here's my main like McLaren question. Do we think this is the year Lando actually like becomes the driver that like pro Lando Twitter thinks he is? Like, is this the year he actually gets his head out of his ass and like actually gets a win or two? Like, actually doesn't botch a pole position by driving off? Doesn't have all of the hypothetical success? Doesn't could have won a race if not for the fact that he let Danny Rick win? Or is this just who Lando is?
I think that he has been able to live in that space because McLaren has been pretty middling throughout his whole time in Formula One. And I mean, professedly, he enjoys that position, but I think if McLaren is good, that will be the time when he has to put up or shut up. You know what I mean?
But I mean, doesn't the fact that Danny Rick won a race and he didn't, and then Oscar like immediately went and converted his only uh uh sprint race pole position into a win, like doesn't isn't that pretty embarrassing for Lando Norris?
He is so lucky that that was a sprint race. He is so lucky that that was a sprint race because if Oscar wins a race before him, that I would not want to be a Lando Norris fan on Twitter. Let me put it that way. And I won't say, because I genuinely like, I do feel bad for like the fans when something bad, like, because I remember 2020, you know what I mean? So I always have sympathy for those people. But personally, I do think Oscar will beat him this year. But because Oscar had some stinkers at the end of last year, but I think he's getting in the groove. But it all hinges on if McLaren can get their shit together.
So I mean, again, I'm not super optimistic based on the fact that Lando was second in testing, which makes me think that the car that again that they tried to match Max and couldn't. But again, we'll see if that's just me being a massive hater. Um, I'm how do I say this in a way that isn't just like massively disrespectful to a driver I don't like? Um, we're all agreed that the funniest, best, optimal outcome of the first three races is Charles wins Bahrain, Checo wins Saudi Arabia, and Oscar wins Australia, right?
Oh, I would love Oscar to win in Australia. With a few exceptions, I do always, in my heart, a little bit root for drivers at their home race.
Is one of those exceptions Lance at Montreal?
No, my greatest flaw is that I secretly feel really bad for Lance Stroll,
That
which
is a terrible trait of yours.
which is crazy because he's literally fucking hella skiing on top of Canadian mountains and like lives the best life humanly possible. But I do like people are so mean to him and like understandably so. Like you have to know that that's going to happen when you're in that situation. But like I said, like watching them really struggle is hard. And I've always had a little bit of sympathy for Lance Stroll because I think that he comes across a little like dismissive and rude when you can very clearly tell that he's just like shy and awkward. You know what I mean?
Sure, but then the answer to that is maybe don't make your dad buy an F1 team for you.
Right, right. And no, and like obviously, yes, like you have to expect the scrutiny when you're in that situation. There's just no two ways about it. And I personally, because I get that from Lawrence Stroll's perspective. Like I'm self-aware enough to know that if I ever have a kid, I'm gonna have to seriously temper like my desire to spoil them, but also like raise a monster because I'm like, you're literally never wrong. Like I would totally buy my child a Formula One team if I had the capacity to. Like I have a cat and I treat it like a person, like a human child. I can only imagine. But I don't get it from Lance's perspective because if that was me, I would be like, I just I just couldn't handle knowing that like because he's just like very clearly not as good as the others. And I've talked about it with Connie before. It's like you have when you first join, when there's like era, usually it comes, there's like a big chunk of them at once. There's some outliers like Max and such, but there's like you start with a bunch, right? So like let's take the current generation. You had like Antonio and Latifi and then Charles and George and Alex and all of them, right? And then at first you lose like the ones that only make it 1 or 2 years, right? And then you get to like kind of a core group, and then as a couple years start to pass, you start to lose some of the ones who are like solid drivers, but clearly not at the level where they're going to compete for championships,
Your
right?
your your Roman Grosjeans, your
Exactly.
Marcus Ericsson's, your you know
Right. And then you kind of get to like a core group of really solid drivers who are like future world champions in asterisks, you know what I mean? And but then that group, as you get 7, 10, 15 years in, that whittles down to like the real, like the ones people are going to remember, you know what I mean? Even if it's not all world champions, it's mostly you know? So the if you artificially advance yourself in that process as you go along, it's going to become more and more glaring.
right, and like it's bad at Aston, and I kind of combine these two topics anyway, so I'm fine to do the Aston thing now. Like he's getting pantsed by Fernando. There's
He
a
got pants by Seb. People forget like he Seb beat him pretty significantly and while missing 2 races and DNSing another race because of
yeah,
a
it just
mechanic.
doesn't look quite as bad because
Because there were 3 races Seb didn't even compete in.
well that and like they just weren't that like a points finish for Aston in 2022 wasn't they
Right.
weren't
It's
getting
also
seconds or thirds.
that's
And
also
so like
how
raw
numbers
point
work.
totals are never going to be as high for Seb.
Right. It's because the gap is going to widen because the way the points are set up is exponential. So as you
Yeah.
move up in that scale, the difference is also going to be exponential.
Right. But like he's gotten pants basically 2 years in a row by competitive teammates. I mean, I my memory of 2020 and what I've watched was that Checo beat the shit out of him too. Like uh
Lance has had some flashes of brilliance. You know what I mean? And he was good enough in the rest of the time that
but like wouldn't Aston be so much more fascinating if Drugovich had that seat?
it would be more like that's my true beef with Lance Stroll. Like, I am truly sorry to the man. He seems like it's tough, but literally anyone would be more interesting in this. Like,
I'm just
it's
thinking
especially
specifically
now.
Drugovich because Drugovich is an Aston Junior, but yeah,
Well,
F2
yeah.
champion Felipe Drugovich. Put some respect on his name, I
The
guess.
thing is, like, now that I mean, they obviously fell off majorly towards the end of last year, but when you're like the 2 or 3 team, like when you're up there, it becomes more annoying for everyone when like it's just Fernando, you know?
Right. So do we think they're going to be like do we think they have any hope to like fight in the like McLaren Mercedes fight, or do we think it's going to be like them and Alpine closer together?
I hope not. I wish, like, I actually can't handle like that Fernando is like, ugh, it kills me. It literally, after watching Seb like truly toil and like be yeeted off the track by every Red Bull reject on the block, it actually makes my blood boil. Even though, listen, Sebastian Vettel is happy he's frolicking in the wilderness. That's amazing for him. I'm still here watching, so I get to be salty about it. And
How happy were you when Max was just like, "Oh, I'm 2 tenths down with a sector to go in Monaco. Fuck it, still gonna put it on pole." How
I
that
became
third sector must make you a Max stand
there
just
was a
it
weird
stopped.
there was a weird era of this season where like I randomly had to become a Max stan because I was like, Fernando Alonso cannot win a race. Like, for the sake of my mental stability, I have so little in this world. Like, everything is going wrong. I just need this one thing. Like, I need Fernando to not win a race. And it worked. Shout out Max Verstappen.
Um uh can I get my like probably most controversial take that I'm gonna get off of this podcast?
Oh my God,
Can I
go
do
for
so
it.
now?
Go for it.
Esteban Ocon won't be on the 2025 grid.
Yeah, I don't
I think Tripod is gonna fucking destroy Ocon.
I just, to be honest with you, didn't pay attention to them even a little bit last year. Like, I could, like, who won? I couldn't tell you which one beat the other.
I think it was Gasly, but I
They
can't
were
get
such a disaster. They were just like never.
well, they were sixth. They were sixth the entire year, right? They were
Yeah.
better than the Williams Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo Haas quad. And they were never close to the McLaren, Aston, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like they
Oh,
were just
Pierre. I mean, Esteban beat Pierre by kind of a lot. He was eighth. Pierre was 14th.
how many points though?
20. I Googled, sorry. I Googled 2022 because I thought it was still 2023. Sorry.
I was gonna say I didn't think I how was
Oh,
Pierre in
you're right.
14th when he had like a podium?
Pierre just edged, well, because I was like, he was eighth. That doesn't make any sense. Pierre just edged him out. It was 62 to 58. They were 11th and 12th.
Yeah, and that's with Gasly having to like come into a team and learn a car that
Yeah.
Ocon had an advantage in.
And
Like,
also, like, who knows who got screwed over more by, like, I just remember they were both constantly DNFing.
well, they were constantly DNFing, but Gasly definitely got screwed over because there was like some institutional we're gonna prioritize Esteban. So why TLDR? Why do they hate each other again?
Oh my God. So
So it's not because it's not actually about their like it's not actually the Ralph Schumacher thing that like one of them stole a girlfriend,
I,
right?
I don't know. No, I don't think, I mean, I have found no, I could not possibly confirm that, but I don't, so I've read Pierre's entire karting blog from 2007. It is in French, so I had to translate it. But first of all, it's so cute. He writes about Antoine and Charles as well, but he writes about Esteban like by far the most. But there are some little things where you can tell, like, there was this time the Bridgestone Cup final at the sea, actually, to be specific, in 2007. He Pierre won, but like there was a kerfuffle at the start where some carts like were in the grass. And Esteban's dad like reported Pierre and got him disqualified for like passing illegally at the start or something. So if I had to read the situation based on the knowledge of sports parents, I think that it was a really like they were both really competitive, and Pierre also doesn't come from like a ton of money. You know what I mean? Like they had to go get sponsors and like do all this advertising. And I think that they were competing for sponsors. I think it was there was probably like parent drama, and then also like them being competitive with each other and being teenagers. I think they probably just had a natural falling out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like the level of petty, the cropping each other. What was it? The Ballon d'Or where they both cropped each other out of
That is
their
hysterical.
Instagram photos. They had to have Charles sit between them at the NBA Paris game 2 years ago. Like
Bringing
these
Charlie is
people
the
hate each
funniest.
other.
I
Like,
yeah, like I mean, yeah. I mean, clearly it just the whole thing reads to me so much like a high school beef that it's like they clearly had some falling out.
yeah, but like Gasly's older than me, and I'm 27. Get over it.
That's true. I mean, they most like they're over it enough to like act nice. The cropping each other out of the con picture is hilarious. Like,
I don't think either of them have been posted on each other's social media. I think it's literally
no.
only when Alpine makes them at this point. Like, you didn't even have the like fake niceties when either of them like got because they both got on one podium last year. They what weren't even like faking niceties. Like it seems like they still don't like each other.
I also
Um,
think that people just really underestimate that friendship breakups are like I don't want to say worse than romantic breakups, but like
can be worse.
at least at the same level. But I would say in this situation, especially when you have to like see the person all the time. I mean, who knows? Maybe it, and also maybe it is something that they could realistically just get over if they both grew up, but like they're both too proud to be the one who's like, this fight is stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the guy who once outed that his nickname was Tripod does not really seem like the most mature of human beings alive.
Yeah, it's not screaming emotional maturity, but
Then again, he didn't try and unlap himself against Max Verstappen and then act surprised when Max shoved him. Like,
yeah.
what was that? Was that 2018 Brazil?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Because Kimmy was still there, yeah. Um I love that race. I love Max just being like, what the fuck are you doing? And I love Esteban's like fake pretend, like, what are you doing, man? It's like what did you think was gonna happen?
Listen, obviously, I don't condone shoving people. However, the way people acted, like Max pulled out a gun and shot him, was the crazy. Like people acted like he attacked him, like just brawling, sucker punched out of nowhere. And then the way, which like, okay, I do get because like F1 and of course like that this is the internet's like this everywhere to an extent, but like people love to grandstand and like take a statement that's like objectively true, which is like we shouldn't be fucking shoving each other, handle it like an adult, to Max Verstappen is like a violent individual. You know what I mean? And like he's evil and needs to be banned from the sport. Like, okay, like I think we can all just like he can be punished and we can all be like, this is bad without
Wasn't was it fucking Judd Apatow who uh who was doing a like, oh my god, you Will Smith could have killed Chris Rock routine on Twitter
right.
the night of the Oscar slap. Like, I don't think Will Smith should have slapped him. I thought the joke was perfectly like, you could dislike the joke. I don't like, control yourself, buddy. But like,
No, you
I
can't.
do love the clutched pearls. Like, Let's
Right. The pearl clutching was a bit much. And it's always the British. It just is. And I think, well, and also like in the British's defense, I watch Sky Sports, so like that's really what I'm talking about. And I don't want an American broadcast, so I really shouldn't complain. But
what, you don't want Danica Patrick every week?
God, I would just like to say that I was a Danica Patrick hater before it was cool because I've hated her since she dated Aaron Rodgers and was a weird crystal girl who didn't believe in vaccines then. Never mind now. She was a day
we
one.
don't we don't we don't we don't talk about Aaron Rodgers' love life, okay? Like, I had to defend this fucker as a Packers fan for
Oh
years.
yeah, see, I'm
I
well
have
versed.
been in these internet streets for too long.
Same because it's also so funny because I've also like been in so many different like fandoms throughout the years and like I'm older so like and I've been on the internet for since I was way too young to be on the internet. So like I've been here a while and like when an old character like pops up in your new like what you're doing now, it's like, whoa, like when Danica Patrick was obviously like I knew she was an IndyCar driver, but when she popped up on the broadcast, I was like, because I know Danica Patrick from being an Aaron Rodgers hater and dedicated to my research on my
Wait,
and
wait, wait, wait. It's not, you don't know her from the fucking GoDaddy commercials?
I mean, yeah, I was like aware of who she was, but like I didn't know anything about her really until she dated.
All I knew is that she was a female racing driver who kept like suggesting that if you buy GoDaddy, you'll get to see her nudes. So it was like a recurring like 5 year ad campaign, and I just really laughed at
I
it
guess I missed
because
that one, to be honest. I just knew she was an IndyCar driver, and
no,
I
though that was like a whole ass thing for years. And I just remember laughing at it really hard because I'm like, this is not like this is supposed to be working on me, and it's not. And like it was one of the sort of moments that clarified just how gay I was. Um,
that's very funny.
do we have any faith in the artists formerly known as Toro Rosso? Do we think that they're actually gonna make a step this year? Do we think Danny Rick is gonna like
I
suddenly get
hope
a
they'll
podium?
be at least like good enough that because there comes a point when you're so bad that like you can't even really assess how a driver is doing because the car is like that much of a disaster, right? So I hope that
Yeah, this is yeah. What we politely call on this podcast the George Russell zone.
yes. So honestly, like Haas is the number one offender of that, but Williams is right up there with them. And
I mean Williams has gotten their shit together finally. They hired a good team principal. I am team
I
now on this.
I like root for Williams so hard, but I love and Jensen. Like the vibes are so good. Alex Williams, world champion. If I could wish for one thing, well, no, if I could wish for one thing in F1, it would be Seb wins a Ferrari world championship. But
No,
if
no,
I could
come
wish
on,
for
come
one,
on. You know what the actual best, funniest outcome of the season is.
the funniest what?
The funniest outcome of the season. It's not an Alex World Championship. It's a frat boy World Championship.
Oh, this isn't what would be funny. This is what I personally want. But I would love because I feel like Alex winning with Williams would be such like a universal feel good story.
Yeah, but then it would be like, oh, but Alex won a world championship and George didn't, and then my day would be ruined.
I just like listen, I'm not gonna I do think it's slightly unfair to judge Logan Sargent for having a crazy family and bad political opinions when that is true of a lot of people on the grid. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it definitely doesn't endear me to him. And he's truly giving nothing. Like he's just a man on Tinder in Florida.
Yeah, but counterpoint, he's so fucking hot.
I mean, I guess like objectively I can see that, but like you got to give me something. Like you have to be interesting a little bit to he looks like an amalgamation of every man. Like he's very like generic looking to me.
He should be at he should be at this Duke Miami game that is currently on my television as a
He
Miami student.
he looks like a Duke basketball player, and I don't mean that as a compliment.
Hey, hey, I like JJ Redick.
My God, JJ Redick.
Do you, completely off topic? Have you seen the JJ Redick controversy of the last
Oh my
36
God,
hours.
no, what is it?
So he went on First Take and was like, "Doc, what are you doing? Stop with all these fucking excuses." Because the Bucks are like 3-7 since he took over, and now him and Patrick Beverly are in like a 36-hour long like slap fest. It's really funny.
That is really funny. I love when they beef on the shows because it's like the exact same thing as Twitter. The like increment of time is just so like back and forth. And my favorite is when that's why Stephen A and Skip are my favorite because they're still doing their shows just like separately. Like they're both talking to each other still.
Yeah, and like and I mean like Skip Bayless is literally just the Mad Men John Hamm elevator scene of like, I feel sorry for you, and then Stephen A is John Hamm, who's just like, I don't think about you at all.
For sure. No, I mean, listen, Stephen A. Smith is my personal hero, but also there are Skip Bayless people out there in this world. Like my brother loves Skip Bayless and I like side eye him. I'm like, wrong.
That's just a terrible opinion. Um,
Stephen A. Smith is like truly my greatest inspiration in this life.
what once I like came to understand what Stephen A is doing, like I respect the fuck out of him. I used to hate him, but like now I understand that he is like doing a character.
Yeah. And he's genuinely so funny. Like,
Well, that's the thing. When you stop taking him like really serious, it is just objectively insane how funny he is.
and also like the the gist of what he's saying is usually correct, or at least like actually his opinion. It's just the he chooses to deliver it like in a comedic fashion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then him like his radio show where he just like one time a dude called in and he just like destroyed him for like 3 minutes on a fucking cars.
Oh my
Like,
God, the greatest clip of all time. He's like, he thought he had me on cars, but he
but like,
didn't.
no, but this is the thing. Like they finally have found a way to make First Take better, which is it's Stephen A. It's a Stephen A. vehicle as opposed to like a quote unquote debate show. Like, and frankly, it's more fun when it's like him and whoever, it's him and JJ or whatever, or him and Mina Kimes during football season, because like him and Mina Kimes don't really argue, which is
Yeah,
fine
I
because like no one has to take a stupid opinion then.
right, exactly. Like I think we're finally coming to the place where we realize that we don't really need the other half of the argument. And also like you can have an entertaining show where both people state their opinions and because usually that's like the thing because that was like the fault of it before is like when you're only arguing like these two polar opposite opinions and you sit down before and you're like, okay, like I'm going to take this side, you're going to take that side, a lot of times one of those sides will end up being incredibly silly because like the truth is like usually even if people skew more one way or another, they agree on like 80% of things. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I hate Lando Norris, but like I'm not gonna pretend he's like a bottom 10 driver on the grid.
Right, exactly. Like
But
and
if I were to go on if I were to go on First Take and I'd be like, yeah, Lando Norris, bottom 5, should he even be on the grid? Like that's just what like the old iterations of those shows kind of demanded.
exactly. And also it's like Lando Norris, there's something to be said for I wouldn't care about Lando Norris if he wasn't good.
Yeah, of course.
Like he
You
would
know,
then
you know who I don't have a strong opinion about?
who?
Uh, Kevin Magnuson. I literally forgot his name as I was about to make this point. Valtteri Bottas. Don't have a strong opinion about him anymore. Uh, Hulkenberg.
I
No,
strongly dislike Nico Hulkenberg.
but he's really funny though because he is literally just failing upwards. He is
The
just continuing to create
just
history
don't
every race.
I just don't understand. I just don't and I listen, I don't want to run afoul of the Hulkenberg fans. You know what I mean?
There are
It,
Hulkenberg fans.
bro, I once made a video being like, I just don't get like I'm not even trying to be mean. I just don't get that like why do we keep hiring Nico Hulkenberg? And then the craziest part of that is that whenever Fernando comes on the grid or when Seb was like gonna stay or retire or when Lewis is gonna stay or retire, they're like, oh, like maybe we should like give seats to younger guys, we need to make room for the next generation. I'm like, not like what Lewis, Fernando, the Sebs of the world, there should be the last people entering that discussion. You know what I mean? Like, and Nico Hulkenberg is right there. And I just and they came out of the woodwork, and I did feel bad because they were all incredibly nice about it. They were like, "Listen, I know, but like, please, I just want him to win a race." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." But I mean, they all like make horrible comments about women, but like he's pretty consistently been like a douche.
Oh, I didn't even remember that. So,
Oh, I keep a Rain Man tally in my head.
um, so we've ranked the top four teams. You have disrespected my great Mercedes, and I will banish you from this podcast after this for it.
I think it would be, listen, I want them to be good. I think it would be it would be spicy if they were good this year, because then it would kind of be like, oh, like Lewis is leaving though.
Well, that's by the way, I think the other reason why I don't think this is going to be a good year for Lewis. Like, I think George is going to beat him. I'm very, very confident in this opinion
See,
because they're just going to develop the car towards George. Lewis is gone.
the thing about
George is
Lewis
team now.
is I agree that with probably most other drivers, it would like affect him in that way. Like it certainly did Seb. It certainly did a lot of other great drivers. But I think what separates the Lewises, the Michael Schumachers, the Tom Brady's, the Roger Federers, the Tiger Woodses of the world is that they are incredibly sore losers. Like they'll throw a tantrum. Like they cannot physically accept winning. Like the fact that Lewis comes out and is like, this man literally said in an interview they were like, asked him about 2021 and he's like, well, in my mind, he's like, in my mind, I won it, and 07 and 16 too. And I was like, okay, so every championship you've ever lost, you think you won? Icon. Good
Right,
on for that.
right. But Lewis like also spiraled pretty hard at the beginning of 2022 instead of just putting his head down and making the best out of it.
Right,
Like,
because he hates losing. Like Tom Brady was a grown adult throwing temper tantrums on the side of a football game, friggin' punting tablets. Like he the evolution of the tablets was not good for Tom Brady because he was never, because he used to always throw the clipboard around and stuff and like scream his
oh,
head
I
off.
remember. I remember the Sunday night football against the Saints because I bet heavily on the Saints that night, and it's like the classic Brady on the Bucks tablet throw, and I just was fucking. I just saw it. I just cackled.
But he
Oh,
used
that was
to
so
always
fun.
do it with the clipboard, but it was never like a thing, right? Because it's a clipboard. But now that it's a tablet, it's like Tom Brady like throws tablet.
Oh, that was
You're
amazing. That
setting him
was
up.
oh, that was a good night.
Um,
Um,
but like, and the same thing like with Roger Federer, like he used to like literally like they cry and like smash his racket like a
See,
child.
I prefer the one to I prefer the one to like Federer. I much prefer him to like the Zverev thing where he just like screams at people because I'm like, oh, you're definitely like bad, like abusive. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I
like
buy that you like I buy the allegations against you because you do not handle your anger well.
he I
Like,
I'm like I just obviously despise him as my part of my ongoing list of men that I hope one day shall meet their demise.
how the fact that while we're doing tennis, the fact that I now stand a Russian tennis player, wild. But I am all in on Medvedev.
Yeah,
He is
I know.
he
Listen,
is my new.
I f- I'm not here to back the Russians, but I also on like a certain level, especially for the athletes, like I mean, I don't know what Medvedev's background is, but like what do you what are you supposed to do? Like you like if you're born in Russia, like and you want to be an athlete, like Putin literally kills people who don't like go along with it. Like I don't know. I guess
Wow, wow, wow. Nikita Mazepin defender here.
okay, no, 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 no. There's a difference between being a citizen and your dad being in the meeting room when they started the war on Ukraine. Okay, let's make a distinction there.
I'm sorry, I just wanted you to bring that fact up.
He's in the
I know
picture.
we
He's
shouldn't be
in the picture.
laughing, but Jesus Christ, it's the funniest thing in about F1.
It's actually insane. Like that was true. And also Nikita Mazepin is just like a wretched individual. But like
Do,
outside
do,
of
do,
that
do we think there's actually I assume you know the lore of the one Instagram live comment, right?
yeah, I think
Do we think he actually has the secret on George, or do you think that's just shit stirring?
there's a long history of F1 drivers spreading rumors about the other ones being gay as like a bad thing. Like Nelson Piquet said it about Senna.
Yeah. See,
And
George is like definitely not the. I think there probably are, and I'm not. We're not going to speculate.
and
Who?
Flavio when Nelson Piquet Jr. came out and was like Crashgate was a thing, he was like he's in a relationship with a 50-year-old man. And I
Jesus
was like,
Christ.
what? Which
Well,
I was
like, yeah,
I think
I can't believe that happened. Sorry, keep going.
no, and so what I'm saying is like I think like I think from when if I like put myself in Mazepin's shoes, someone who's probably deeply homophobic, I think that he and George have a problem, and to him that was like the worst like thing you could do is like spread a rumor about George Russell being gay.
Counterpoint: it would be really good for my agenda if George was gay,
I would
but I
love for anyone
don't.
to be
I
gay,
don't
honestly,
think he is.
or women. I'll take anything. I will take women on the grid. I think it would be if we added some romantic tension in the mix. I think we could really get this party started.
I mean, the funniest one is still Max listing dating apps in a clip once, and just like Tinder, Bumble, Grinder. It's like that is like a little too close to.
I would never speculate. It's inappropriate and wrong, but I will say an unrelated fact, which is that his car is a boy.
No, I mean, I just find it really funny that like because Verstappen is the same birth year as me. There's a clip of Piastri doing some like F1 terms, asking some I don't know some influencer like F1 terms, and one of them was bottoming, and like
Oh my God, there was a period of time where they were just saying bottoming 400 times a minute on the broadcast. And I was like, we really must stop. Like, it's just one of those weird.
but I genuinely enjoy that like the younger drivers just like have like a level of don't give a fuck. Like that's actually
No, they think
genuinely
it's funny.
cool
I
to
mean,
me.
I would absolutely be making jokes about it as well because
Like like I love the fact that Max is just like, yeah, Grinder's a dating app. Like I'm not saying he's ever used it, but like the fact that it's a thing that like people know
no,
about.
and it's so much more normal. I also just think you like just I think this is my Roman Empire with the world in general. Like I think about it with like presidents. I think about it with every group of people you could possibly imagine, which is this statistically speaking, some of them have to be gay. Like they just do.
Yeah.
And when you put groups of people together like that, and this is all men and women, whatever, who was fucking because you know that there's so much tea behind the scenes of like this giant group of people travels the world together for like over 50% of the year. I've been I've worked at a place where like you had to spend that much, you know what I mean? And the travel element, like I can't imagine. It's giving my summer job as a lifeguard when we would because when we would like live in the bunks half the time.
Well, yeah, and like there's definitely I mean, there's a reason that like, you know, everyone just it's all the same. It's all the same socialites that end up dating. It's all the same fucking like it's just it's a very closed off world and everyone is, like
And
everyone knows everyone else. It's all
it's so
very
also
yeah.
I think about I can't help it. I just like think about it from, I put myself in those shoes and I simply would fuck my teammate. Like, would. Like, it doesn't matter. I know myself. Proximity is a hell of a drug. And especially if it was like, like a competitive situation, I would.
We are gonna swiftly avoid this topic, and then we are gonna talk about this topic when we are done recording because I have a point to make. But I would absolutely get sued if I said it out loud because it is unsubstantiated nonsense. Um, rank Toro Rosso, Williams, Alpha, and Haas. Rank them 7 to 10.
God. Okay, I'm gonna say Williams 7 because I'm feeling optimistic. I think Haas is gonna be last. Toro Rosso. I think they'll be behind 8th and then kick me team 9th.
We're just sour. They're just sour.
Yeah.
I almost kind of want it. So I think Gasly's a good driver. This is the only thing holding me back from this. I think we're gonna get Danny Rick podium this year.
I really hope so. I just want, because the haters of Danny Rick are loud and predominantly male. And I want, I want him to end on a high. You know what I mean?
So this is the transition. Silly season, rapid fire, no thinking, just no thoughts, just vibes. Um, we have some open seats for 2025 now that things have happened. I'm either going to give you a driver or a seat. I'm going to pick as I choose because some of these are there. Who's going where? Carlos Sainz. Where does he get a seat?
Audi.
Okay. Sauber, Audi, same thing. Just for any listeners. I know you know that. That's not me mansplaining to you, just to be
No, I know.
safe. Okay, so who's gone then from is Valtteri still on the grid?
That I feel like is 6 one way, half dozen the other. Maybe I could see Valtteri retiring.
I think he's gonna go do like the like Fernando of first retirement thing where he just kind of like fucks around and
Yeah,
tries a bunch of stuff.
I could also see him doing another series. I could see him doing rally. Definitely. So I'll say that just because I really like Joe and I want him to stay.
Well, there's also Drugovich too. Like, and I think it's kind of implied that Drugovich um expects to have a 2025 Alpha Sauber seat.
Oh my God, no.
Does Frat Boy get a third season at Williams?
That really depends on how he does. I think the standard he has to meet won't be high. I don't think he'll have to like be Alex or anything. I think if he does, because if they do good this season and they push the car forward and they make a step and he's close enough to Alex that it's not like, but it is kind of, if they do get better, as always, it's like make or break because he's going to have to beat some people, right?
So
But
I'm gonna say actually I think the standard is gonna be fairly high because
well, because Alex is very good.
one, Alex is very good, but two, Kimi Antonelli is gonna be knocking on that door.
If he wins F2, yeah.
Or
If he
is
wins
even
F2,
remotely competitive.
if he wins F2, Logan's done. Doesn't matter. Unless he significantly outperforms Alex, which I really don't see happening.
Or if Alex takes the Mercedes seat, then Kimi takes Alex's seat.
Yes, that's true.
Because I think there's a decent chance Alex is gonna get promoted.
I need it. I need it with everything in my soul because I just believe that that's what's supposed to, because in Formula One, like it just works like this. Like I believe it will be Alex because it's the childhood friends again. But I also think that Toto Wolff is traumatized enough that he would not sign Alex for that reason.
So, because I think there's two reasonable Mercedes paths, right? There's the Fernando for 2 years.
No, can't happen.
Just let me lay out the path. There's the Fernando into Kimi Antonelli path, right? For that seat, and then there's the Alex path. I also think Alex dark horse for the Alpine seat. Just gonna because
I think I'd
I
rather
don't think Alpine's keeping this team together for another. past
I think I'd
2024.
rather be at Williams than Alpine. Because even if Alpine is going to be better than them, which like, okay, like let's assume that they're such a shit show that like,
What you don't want to be fake internet friends with Ryan Reynolds?
right. And also just like Prost told us, and I believe him, that like it's the management of that team is a disaster and it's just like never going to be a success. Whereas Williams maybe is making some moves. And also
Yeah.
I think
Well, and
Williams,
the other thing is Alex will have an information advantage because James Vallis has like kind of hinted that basically 2026 they're gonna like they're trying to really get on top of the new regs.
yeah.
So he'll have an information advantage, and it might be a case where 25 might be a struggle, but 26, they jump from they basically do the Aston and jump up to midfield or more than midfield. Um, okay, so you're predicting Alex for that seat.
Yeah.
So Fernando just continues to bum around Aston.
Right. I also think Fernando, because if Mercedes was still Mercedes, this wouldn't be a factor. But if they're bad again this year, I think Fernando has to look at it like, because one of the things that really pissed him off about Alpine and made him leave is they were only going to give him a 2-year deal with like guaranteed bringing in Oscar behind him. You know what I mean? And he was like, I deserve to not have someone like lined up to see me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
So
he'll also be 2 years older now. And therefore he might think that like actually 2027 go like leaving I guess that'd be after the 2026 season. Like he might think that's a perfectly fine time to leave.
that's true. He might.
Because he'll be like legitimately like knocking on 50 at that point. Or like 45 or some
I
nonsense.
know. Lewis turns 40 this year, which is crazy. It makes me
I he doesn't look at all. It's wild.
so cute.
Um okay, so we have our predictions. We are locked in. There will be some, I don't know, some prize for the winner or something. I don't know. We'll figure out the terms later. Um,
Sorry, I think you cut out for a second.
yeah, I did. I'm gonna have to fix. I'll fix it in editing. Uh, can you fuck off? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Um, any final takes you want to get off before the season? Anything that you want to say that
Oh,
will?
just the second half of my Max Brazil thought, which is I wanted to bring the whole reason I brought it up because I wanted to slander George to you is that the craziest part to that was like the pro clutching is to be expected, but then George literally crashed Valtteri out, walked over there and hit him on the head. Like before he'd even gotten out of the car. Like that was, and nobody, and the thing is, once again, like, first of all, I feel like that's far more egregious than shoving someone in the way in the weighbridge area. And second of all, nobody cared at all. Nobody cared even a little bit.
I can't believe you just did that to me. I can't believe it. I can't believe you just came on my own podcast and made me talk about Imola
Well, I
2021.
didn't want people to think I was just randomly being a Max defender for no reason.
Oh my god.
But also, listen, the heat of battle, I do think that we should let them fight in the pit lane like NASCAR does. I think it adds a little something to the to the production.
The funniest part of that is, of course, do you know how George got home from Imola that night?
How?
Toto Wolff's private jet.
Oh, of course. I mean, Toto Wolff is literally his father. Like they hunt people together in the wood.
I love if you go back and watch Brazil 2022, Crofty refers to Toto as George's father figure in a sporting context. And but there's like a brief pause.
Oh, Crofty.
Like
Sometimes
he
he really
loves also Crofty
is.
loves referring to things as whatever in a sporting context. He refers to Lando driving off into Russia as tragedy in a sporting context. That's his like favorite fucking verbiage. I love
My
Crofty though.
favorite line of Crofties is when Nico Rosberg was commentating in Hungary, and he was like, he just poor
Oh,
Nico was so
the everything but lovers line.
yes, so clearly uncomfortable, and he just kept pressing them about like them like living together in this apartment building. And Nico was like, yeah, like, but like you could tell. And then he was like, friends, rivals, everything but lovers. The dead silence afterwards. I was like, I honestly, mad respect for Nico Rosberg because I would have evaporated into dust in that moment.
Oh, that Hungary 2021. Also, George's first points in Williams. Very just iconic race. Um,
Oh, Nico was so good on commentary. And to be able to, like, is Jensen better? Yes. But number one, Jensen's superpower is being naturally charming. He's like actually perfect for commentary. And also to be able to live commentate something, you have to be reading the updates, looking at the times, looking at like the screen of what's happening and talking and listening to the other person all at the same time, which is already very hard. And to do that in a language that's not your first language is incredibly impressive. And I do think there were a couple awkward moments that can kind of be explained by Crofty speaks in a lot of like idioms and metaphors and puns. And that is like the hardest thing to understand when it's not, you didn't grow up with that language.
oh yeah, for sure. Like he is like, yeah, no, it's I mean, let's just be very clear about this. Jensen needs to be the Brundle replacement when Martin fucks
He does.
off.
And
He
I
has
know
to be.
that people are going to be like a white man. And listen, I would be with you. I would. But
It
unfortunately, Jensen is the best one. Like it's
doesn't
just
it kind of have to be, but doesn't it kind of have to be a driver?
well, and that's the other thing is like yeah, it does. Like it's always been like a media person and an ex-driver. And unfortunately, there aren't any ex-Formula One drivers who aren't white men. Well, okay, Lewis is gonna do the commentary, or if they are like of another nationality, like they tend you would want to do that in like Sky, like wherever whatever language broadcast, like whoever the broadcaster is for that, because commentating in your second language is freaking crazy.
Yeah, and also, I'm sorry. Do you think Lewis is gonna have time for this nonsense?
Oh
I
no,
mean,
that's what I mean. That's
no, Lewis is gonna the second Lewis
no
retires.
way.
He's fucking off to L.A.
Lewis is
or New
going to the Met
York.
Gala. Like Lewis, there's some,
Yeah,
and also Lewis has always derided like going and being a commentator and like, oh, like you use like people that I mean, he's like clearly shading Nico, but um
yeah, no.
I
We're
think he's
never gonna see Lewis in an F1. Like he never it's never gonna happen. He might show up from Monaco every couple years, but he's not gonna stay in the orbit. He's gonna go be Lewis Hamilton, incredibly famous person.
yes, I agree with that, but I also think on a certain level, I think I could see him in like a Niki Lauda-esque role.
Maybe in 10 years, like maybe 10 years after he's retired, when he like
Definitely.
when he is no longer like when he just no longer wants to jet set. Sure, probably, but
And
I
that's
don't
what
think anytime
I'm
soon.
saying. Like, I think a lot of them, like, give it some time. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
Seb is coming back for sure
even
into
in,
the ecosystem. I don't know how in the ecosystem, but he's gonna be around.
for sure. And like, let them do their, like, let their kids grow up, let them like do other stuff and like establish business ventures and stuff. And because, like, comparatively, in the scope of a lifetime or the length of a Formula One career, it hasn't really been very long at all since even Jensen and Nico retired, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, and of course, like, we talk about Seb and Jensen and Nico like they're old men. Like, are any of them 40?
Uh,
Jensen's probably like early 40s, but like,
yeah, Jensen's a little bit older than them, than Lewis and Nico.
Nico's not.
I think he is 40.
Okay, he looks like he's 28.
I know
He's
people
like
are.
Benjamin Buttoning at this point.
Oh
Anyway,
no, he's 38. I didn't realize he was younger than.
yeah, no, like those guys are like we think of them like they're old because they like because they've been doing it for a while, or they've been done doing it for a bit, but like
Well,
they're
they
not
also
actually
start,
old in any like real life sense.
yeah, they start so young that they've like been in our consciousness for like I always forget like Max is like my little brother's age. Like I always forget that because
Max
he's
and Charles being what, like 3 weeks apart in age,
yeah.
will never like, dude. They entered Formula One like three. Charles entered 3 years after him. Anyways, this has been delightful, but
Yeah.
I trust me, we could do another hour of just random nonsense of one things. Um, Follow you on Twitter and TikTok at Formula whatever. It's a Formula underscore whatever on Instagram,
Yeah.
and then Formula whatever.co for your
Oh yes,
blog
for my
and
mom.
your shop
Yes, I sell t-shirts. They're
and
very
hats.
and hats. I'm trying to I'm gonna expand eventually, but I've got a couple on there right now. They're
I might need you to make a Mercedes hat, because I keep looking at buying a Mercedes hat, and no, I'm not spending that much
I
money.
can't do like I can't do like the logo. So like I need to do
Or like
like
a George 63 thing,
yeah. I don't
something.
I really want to do I've been playing around with the numbers thing and I've been like doodling a bunch of different stuff and like I just can't get it. Every time I complete it, I'm like, this looks stupid. And so but I'm gonna do a number series eventually once I figure out what I want it to look like. Because the problem is SV5 is like cute and it like visually looks good. But like CL16 just doesn't look as good because like the gap between where the L is and the one
Well,
L
this is why you just need to wait until Cheryl becomes world champion and then do CL1.
I also don't, I mean, listen, I'm not like mad that Max is using one, but I also think there's something to be said for having your number, you know?
Yeah, it is cool that Lewis was like, no, I'm still 44.
Because
Fuck it.
one isn't like it's his number now, but it's not Max's number.
No,
Because
he's still
it's gonna be
33.
someone else's when someone else wins eventually. He can't be champion forever.
I mean, are you sure about that?
Even Max for yes, because I've watched the rise and like there was a day when nobody thought Lewis Hamilton would ever lose. You know,
In
it
fairness, Red Bull does keep pitching shit fits about the 2026 regs. So
right. And that's the thing. It really is, it all hinges on the car.
like they've like because the 26 regs they seem like their engine, like they're basically like who gets the best engine, and they don't seem confident that they have the best engine.
Yeah, and also if I was like if I'm a Red Bull, if I'm rooting for Red Bull, the engine is not that I mean obviously it's been great and the Renault thing was obviously a freaking disaster, but that is the I'm not worried about Adrian Newey. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
one component where it could like you could fuck it up. Like Adrian Newey's not gonna screw up.
I mean, I am praying he does, but I don't think so.
The zero side pod thing is if this is like if they actually nail the zero side pods, which it kind of seems like they're gonna, that is
Apparently, it's not zero. Apparently, it's not zero side pods. People got very uppity about this today.
mm, it
Just,
looks
just.
like zero side pods to me.
Well, I'm just warning you about what your Twitter, what your TikTok comments will look like if you say
Oh
zero side
God.
pods.
Yeah, I because I forgot that everybody has a degree in advanced physics now.
See, this is the thing. It's just like I'm just, and this is definitely like partially male privilege, but like I don't. I am just choosing to opt out of pretending I care about the car, like about the like technical designs of the car.
I care about it to the extent that like who like someone can tell me like someone can tell me about it, but like I'm not I'm not going to learn physics. I'm not. I'll learn the history, I'll learn the lore, I'll rewatch the old seasons because I find that stuff interesting. You know what I don't find interesting? Physics. Like,
Yeah,
and people
right.
pretend that it's about cars and oh, the purist and whatever. Stop pretending like rebuilding an engine or fucking changing your oil is the same thing as understanding aerodynamics. Like, be so
We
for real.
just because you can do a just because you can do a bad impression of Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny doesn't mean you actually understand what Adrian Newey is doing.
Right? Like, it's just I
Please tell me you love that movie.
I don't I did not I don't. I have never seen it. I'm so sorry.
I Formula whatever on Twitter, TikTok, Formula underscore whatever on Instagram. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of
Follow me on
course.
Twitter at eScrimshaw. No, it's just I'm just befuddled at this point because it is the most aggressively on brand. I
It sounds the thing is though, it sounds like it's about Italian Americans. And
it's Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei.
yeah, we we never watch we only like it's so funny, my parents. We only watched Irish mob movies. Like we the Irish Italian beef in the Northeast is very real.
Does this mean you've never seen The Sopranos?
No. But I also don't like I don't like scary stuff. And that's like I don't other than Criminal Mind, other than like unless like I don't want to be on the criminal side because like they kind of scare me. Like I want Hotch to come save the person who has been abducted by a serial killer.
You will love My Cousin Vinny. It
I will
is
check it out.
you
I
will
personally do not hold my family's my parents' bias against Italian American themed movies.
I you need to watch it. It is you will fucking love it. Follow me on Twitter at eScrimshaw. Follow the show on Twitter at Scrimshaw_show. I'm pretty sure you do not do so. I'm gonna pull that against you as well. So I have no idea if you follow the Scrimshaw show account, nor do I really care if you do. I don't do anything between the show. Buy my book Salvation in the Storm. Read my writing at Scripts Unscripted. Read my politics betting, NFL betting, NHL, NBA, and whatever the hell else they let me do over at thelines.com. Read my F1 season preview for thelines.com. Have a good week. Thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Scrimshaw Show.